Admiral Jiho stood by the large window of Earth's defense station Aegis. He watched as huge alien ships appeared in space near the edge of the solar system. The ships were massive and strange. Some looked like living creatures with pulsing skin. Others were made of crystal that sparkled in the starlight. There were 200 of them, all arranged in perfect lines like soldiers ready for battle. Jiho had fought aliens before. He knew what these ships meant. The Galactic Empire had finally decided to deal with Earth directly. For years, they had sent messages demanding that humans join their empire. Earth had ignored every message. Now the aliens were here in person. "Sir," said Lieutenant Sora from her control station, "the alien fleet is requesting permission to send representatives to Earth." "Let them come," Jiho replied. He knew this day would arrive eventually. Humans had been preparing for it. 3 hours later, the alien representatives stood in the council chambers in New Geneva. The room was filled with Earth's leaders, but the aliens made everyone nervous. One alien looked like a giant piece of moving crystal. Light passed through its body in strange colors. Another alien seemed to be made of gas held together in a suit. The third was covered in scales and had teeth like a shark. The crystal alien spoke first. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. "I am Prime Minister Vel of the Ashikari. This is Speaker Gnome of the Nathali Collective and War Chief Gore of the Morgoth Empire." President Mina sat at the head of the council table. She had once been an engineer who built cities on Mars. Now she led all of Earth. She looked calm, but Jiho could see the tension in her shoulders. "We have come to deliver the final word of the Galactic Empire," the crystal alien continued. "Your species has refused to join our great civilization for too long. You have built weapons that threaten the peace of the galaxy. You have expanded beyond your home world without permission." The gas alien, Speaker Nom, floated forward. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through caves. "The Empire has been patient with your primitive species, but patience has limits. You will submit to imperial law. You will pay taxes to the Empire. You will stop building warships. You will give us your dangerous quantum technology." War Chief Gore stepped forward. He was 8 feet tall and his claws scraped against the floor. "You have 72 hours to agree to these terms. If you refuse, the Empire will take what it wants by force. Your species will be reduced to slaves and your world will be stripped of all resources." The council chamber was silent. Some of the human leaders looked afraid, others looked angry. President Mina stood up slowly. She was not a large woman, but she had presence that filled the room. "Thank you for coming all this way to deliver your message," she said politely. "Now let me give you ours." Her voice became cold as ice. "The Sol system is now a sovereign territory. We do not recognize the Empire's authority over us. Any Imperial vessel that crosses our declared boundary will be considered an act of war." The alien representatives looked shocked. The crystal aliens' light flickered rapidly. "You cannot be serious. You are one small world. The Empire contains 47 species across 10,000 worlds. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. President Mina smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Then you should understand the value of experience. We suggest you leave while you still can." War Chief Gore roared with laughter. "Primitive humans think they can threaten the Empire. Your entire species would fit in one of our mining colonies." "Perhaps," Mina replied, "but we are not going anywhere, and neither are you unless you choose to leave." Within an hour, the alien representatives had returned to their ships. They seemed confused and angry. Humans were not acting the way aliens expected them to act. Dr. Hyun worked in his laboratory deep beneath the Earth's surface. He was the chief scientist of the Quantum Defense Project. For 20 years, he had been working on something that would change everything. Now, the time had come to use it. "Are you ready?" President Mina asked him over the communication system. "As ready as we can be," Hyun replied. He looked tired. He knew what his invention could do and it frightened him. But he also knew that Earth had no choice. Across the solar system, hidden devices began to activate. They had been placed secretly over many years. Some were buried on asteroids, others floated in empty space between planets. Each device was small, but together they formed a network that surrounded the entire solar system. The devices created an invisible barrier 50 light-years from the sun. It was not a wall that ships could crash into. It was something much more dangerous. It was a line in space itself. Earth's communication systems broadcast a message on all frequencies. Every ship in nearby space could hear it. Every alien listening post received it. The message was simple and clear. This is Earth to all Imperial forces. We have established a 50 light-year exclusion zone around our solar system. This boundary is now active and defended. Any Imperial vessel that crosses this line without permission will face immediate destruction. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Step across the line, face Oblivion. The message repeated in 47 alien languages. Earth wanted to make sure everyone understood. On the Imperial flagship, the alien commanders held an emergency meeting. They could not believe what they were hearing. Humans had just declared war on the entire Galactic Empire. This is impossible, Prime Minister Vel said. They have no weapons that could threaten our fleet. Their technology is primitive, Speaker. Nam agreed. They still use chemical rockets and metal ships. But War Chief Gore was not so sure. He had studied human history. He knew that humans were dangerous when cornered. Perhaps we should test their defenses before committing to a full attack, he suggested. Admiral Jiho watched the alien fleet from his command center. The ships were moving back and forth at the edge of the solar system. He could tell the aliens were confused and angry. They had expected Earth to surrender immediately. Instead, Earth had drawn a line in space and dared them to cross it. What do you think they'll do? Lieutenant Sora asked. They'll test us, Jiho replied. They have to. Their pride won't let them back down without knowing what we can do. And when they test us? Jiho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the most powerful empire in the galaxy was deciding whether to destroy Earth or leave it alone. Everything depended on the next few hours. Then we show them that humans keep their promises, he said quietly. All of them. War Chief Gore paced back and forth in his command room. The other Imperial leaders watched him with nervous eyes. For 3,000 years, no species had dared to challenge the Empire directly. Now these primitive humans had drawn a line in space and told the greatest military force in the galaxy to stay away. This is ridiculous, Prime Minister Vel said. The crystal alien's body flashed with angry colors. We cannot let this insult stand. If other species see humans defying us, they might get similar ideas. Speaker Nam floated near the ceiling, its gas form swirling with agitation. The humans are bluffing. They must be. What weapons could they possibly have that we should fear? Gore stopped pacing and looked out at the human solar system. Something felt wrong about this situation. In all his years as a warrior, he had learned to trust his instincts. Perhaps they are bluffing, he said slowly. But perhaps they are not. I suggest we send a small force to test their defenses. An excellent idea, Vel agreed. A few ships should be enough to break through whatever primitive defenses they have prepared. 20 Imperial ships broke away from the main fleet. They were not the largest or most powerful ships, but they were still impressive. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a city. The ships moved slowly toward the invisible line that Earth had drawn in space. Captain Taman watched the approaching alien ships from the bridge of his stealth frigate, Silent Thunder. His ship was hidden among the asteroids at the edge of the solar system. The aliens could not see him, but he could see them perfectly. Taman had once been a smuggler, moving illegal goods between planets. The military had caught him 5 years ago and given him a choice: prison or service in Earth's defense fleet. He had chosen service and discovered he was good at it. His criminal experience had taught him how to think like someone outside the law. Now he was thinking like someone outside the normal rules of war. Captain, said Lieutenant Baum from the sensor station, the alien probe fleet is approaching the quantum boundary. They'll cross it in 10 minutes. Send all sensor data to Earth Command, Taman ordered. Let them know the test is about to begin. The lead alien ship was commanded by an Ashikari officer named Commander Zack. He was young for his species and eager to prove himself to his superiors. The other ships followed his lead as he approached the human boundary. "Begin active scans," Zack ordered. "I want to know what kind of defenses these humans think they have." The alien ships crossed the invisible line in space. For a moment, nothing happened. The ships continued forward, their crews confident that the human threat had been empty words. Then one of the ships simply disappeared. It did not explode. There was no flash of light or cloud of debris. The ship was there 1 second and gone the next, as if it had never existed at all. "What happened?" Commander Zack demanded. "Where did the destroyer Keth go?" His sensor officer, a nervous Morgoth named Locke, checked his instruments frantically. "I don't know, sir. The ship was there and then it wasn't. Our instruments show no explosion, no energy discharge, nothing." On the other alien ships, panic was spreading. The crews had never seen anything like this. Ships didn't just vanish. There had to be some kind of weapon, but no one could detect it. Earth Command broadcast a message to the probe fleet. The voice was calm and professional. "Attention, Imperial vessels. That was a warning. Turn back now or join your companion ship in Oblivion. You have 60 seconds to begin your retreat." Commander Zack felt his crystal body grow hot with anger. No one gave orders to the Imperial Navy. "All ships continue forward, prepare weapons. We will show these humans what happens when they threaten the Empire." The probe fleet moved deeper into the solar system. 50 seconds later, 2 more ships vanished in the same impossible way. This time, the alien crews saw it happen. The ships seemed to fold in on themselves and disappear like someone had erased them from reality. "This is impossible," Zack screamed. "Weapons don't work this way. Nothing works this way." Commander Nara sat in the control center of the quantum defense grid, buried deep beneath Earth's ocean floor. She watched the alien ships on her screens with scientific interest. The quantum field was working exactly as Dr. Hyun had predicted. When the alien ships crossed the boundary, they entered a region of space where the normal laws of physics had been changed. "The alien ships are trying to lock weapons on our satellites," reported her assistant, Lieutenant J. "Let them try," Nara replied calmly. "Their targeting systems won't work properly in the quantum field. Their weapons will lose coherence before they reach their targets." She was right. The alien ships fired their energy weapons, but the beams scattered and faded long before reaching their intended targets. The quantum field surrounding Earth's solar system made conventional warfare impossible. Captain Taman moved his ship closer to the alien fleet. The Silent Thunder was designed to work within the quantum field. Its systems had been modified to take advantage of the changed physics instead of fighting against them. "Fire 1 quantum torpedo," Taman ordered. The torpedo didn't look like much. It was smaller than the massive energy weapons the aliens used. But when it reached the alien ship, something amazing happened. The torpedo didn't explode. Instead, it created a small hole in space itself. The alien ship was pulled into the hole and vanished. 4 more alien ships tried to run. They turned around and raced back toward the boundary as fast as their engines could carry them. But the quantum field had already changed them. As they crossed back into normal space, 2 of them aged 1,000 years in an instant and crumbled to dust. The other 2 made it out safely, but their crews were traumatized by what they had witnessed. Commander Zack found himself alone in the human solar system. 15 of his 20 ships were gone. The others had fled in terror. His own ship's systems were failing as the quantum field interfered with its basic functions. "Unknown Earth vessels," he broadcast on all frequencies. "I surrender. Please, I surrender. Don't make me disappear like the others." Captain Taman smiled. The alien commander sounded very different from the arrogant officer who had crossed the boundary just an hour ago. "Earth Command, this is Silent Thunder. The probe fleet has been neutralized. 1 surviving ship is requesting permission to withdraw." "Permission granted," came the reply from Admiral Jiho. "Escort them to the boundary and make sure they understand the lesson." Taman's ship appeared next to the alien vessel. "Commander," Zack could see it clearly now, and he was amazed. The human ship was tiny compared to his own vessel, but it moved through space like it owned everything around it. "Listen carefully," Taman broadcasted to the alien ship. "You came here with 20 ships. You are leaving with one. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that Earth keeps its promises. Tell them that the boundary is real, and crossing it means death. Commander Zack's ship limped back to the Imperial fleet as fast as it could go. When he arrived, the alien leaders gathered to hear his report. What he told them changed everything. The ships didn't explode, he said, his voice shaking. They just stopped existing. One moment they were there, the next moment there was empty space. I have never seen weapons like this. I don't think anyone has ever seen weapons like this. War Chief Gore listened to the report in silence. He had suspected the humans were more dangerous than they appeared. Now he knew for certain. How many ships did we lose? He asked quietly. 19, Zack replied. 19 ships and 3,000 crew members, gone without a trace. The command room fell silent. In 3,000 years of Imperial expansion, they had never lost so many ships so quickly to such a small enemy. Prime Minister Vel's crystal body flickered with confused colors. This changes nothing. We will simply send more ships. Enough. Ships to overwhelm whatever defenses they have. But War Chief Gore was not convinced. He had seen many weapons in his long military career, but never anything that could make ships vanish from existence. The humans had found a way to fight that the Empire did not understand. For the first time in his life, the great warrior wondered if the Empire had finally met an enemy it could not defeat. The news of the Imperial probe fleet's destruction spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the great capital city of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were called in the Imperial Palace. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall. The building was so large that some delegates needed flying vehicles just to move around inside it. Emperor Vextar was ancient even by Morgoth standards. He had ruled the Empire for 800 years and had never faced a defeat like this. His massive form sat on the crystal throne, carved from a single piece of quantum-hardened diamond. His yellow eyes glowed with cold fury as he listened to Commander Zack's report. Impossible, whispered Delegate Wren, representing the insect-like Kyler hive. No single world has technology that advanced. The humans must have found ancient weapons somewhere. Or they are working with the precursors, suggested Ambassador Tal of the Vorthon Republic. The Vorthon's tentacles writhed nervously as he spoke. Everyone feared the mysterious precursors, the ancient race that had vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago. Emperor Vextar raised one massive clawed hand, and the entire assembly fell silent. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like thunder. It does not matter where the humans got their weapons. What matters is that they have dared to use them against the Empire. This insult cannot stand. If we allow one primitive world to defy us, others will follow. The Empire will crumble. The war drums of Nexus Prime began to beat. The sound could be heard across the entire planet, signaling that the Empire was preparing for its greatest military campaign in 1,000 years. Every species contributed ships and warriors. Factory worlds began working around the clock to produce weapons and supplies. Within 1 week, the largest fleet in galactic history was assembled. 5,000 warships of every size and design filled the space around Nexus Prime. The smallest ships carried crews of 50. The largest were mobile cities with populations of 1 million. Together they represented the combined military might of an empire that spanned half the galaxy. Meanwhile, deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, President Mina walked through the secret corridors of the Mariana Research Complex. The facility was built inside a massive underwater mountain, invisible to any scanning technology the Empire possessed. Dr. Hyun waited for her in the central laboratory, surrounded by machines that hummed with quantum energy. "Show me," Mina said simply. Dr. Hyun led her to a viewing window that looked out into a vast underwater chamber. Inside the chamber was a sphere of pure energy, crackling with colors that had no names. Around the sphere, smaller devices floated in perfect geometric patterns. "This is the heart of our defense system," Hyun explained. "The quantum manipulation network. We've been building it for 20 years, ever since our first contact with the Empire. Every anchor point, every generator, every control node has been..." placed with mathematical precision. Mina stared at the energy sphere. What exactly does it do? It changes the fundamental laws of physics within our solar system, Hyun replied. Space, time, matter, energy. We can manipulate all of them within the quantum field. The alien ships disappeared because we convinced the universe that they never existed in the first place. The president felt a chill run down her spine. You're talking about changing reality itself. In a limited way, yes. The effect only works within our controlled space, and it requires enormous amounts of energy to maintain. But as long as the network is active, we can make the impossible happen. In another part of the complex, General Wook studied holographic displays showing the approaching Imperial fleet. He was Earth's supreme military commander, a man who had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Unlike the aliens who relied on massive fleets and overwhelming firepower, Wook understood that this war would be won through strategy and careful planning. They're bringing everything, his aide Colonel Su reported. Intelligence estimates 5,000 ships from every major species in the Empire. Good, Wook replied. The more ships they bring, the bigger target they make. Remember, we don't need to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to break their will to fight. Above them, in the surface facilities, ordinary humans prepared for war in their own way. Teacher Bomb organized her students in evacuation drills, making sure every child knew where to go if the aliens managed to break through Earth's defenses. Factory worker Jay worked extra shifts to produce ammunition for the defense stations, even though most people didn't really understand what the new quantum weapons did. But Earth had one more secret weapon, and his name was Kale. Kale was a Zephyrian, one of the youngest species in the Empire. His people had been forced to join the Imperial Alliance only 50 years ago, and many of them still resented their loss of independence. Unlike the older species, who had grown comfortable with Imperial rule, the Zephyrians remembered what freedom felt like. Kale had contacted Earth through secret channels 6 months ago. He represented a growing underground movement among the younger species, groups who were tired of being ruled by the ancient powers of the Empire. The success of Earth's rebellion had given these groups hope that change was possible. He met with President Mina in a secure room deep within the Mariana complex. Kyle looked almost human, except for his silver skin and the fact that he could breathe underwater as easily as air. My people are watching this conflict very carefully, Kyle told her. If Earth can defeat the Empire, it will prove that the old powers can be challenged. 7 species have already agreed to revolt if you succeed. And if we fail? Mina asked. Then the Empire will use our solar system as an example to keep everyone else in line for another 1,000 years. Kyle's expression was grim. They will not just destroy your military. They will strip your world bare and sell your people as slaves to show the galaxy what happens to rebels. President Mina nodded. She had known the stakes from the beginning. This was not just a war for Earth's independence. It was a war for the future of the entire galaxy. Dr. Hyun continued his work in the depths of the ocean, making final adjustments to the quantum network. He had not slept in 3 days, but he could not rest. The approaching Imperial fleet was larger than anything he had planned for. The quantum field was powerful, but it had limits. Doctor, his assistant Yeon called out. The energy calculations are showing red warnings. The network wasn't designed to handle this many ships at once. Hyun studied the numbers on his screen. The math was terrifying. The quantum field could easily handle a few hundred ships, but 5,000 ships would strain the system to its breaking point. If the network failed during the battle, Earth would be completely defenseless. Then we'll have to make sure the network doesn't have to handle all 5,000 ships at once, he said finally. We'll need to divide their fleet, separate them, into smaller groups that we can deal with one at a time. How do we do that? Dr. Hyun smiled for the first time in weeks. We let General Wook figure that out. He's the strategist. My job is just to make sure the universe cooperates with his plans. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Prometheus. The ship was built using the latest human technology, powered by quantum engines that could manipulate space-time itself. Unlike the massive alien battleships, the Prometheus was relatively small and fast, designed to take advantage of Earth's unique advantages. "Admiral," Lieutenant Sora reported from the communications station, "long-range sensors are detecting the Imperial fleet. They're still 3 days away, but the size of the force is confirmed. 5,000 ships." Jiho nodded calmly. He had known this day would come ever since humans first reached for the stars. Earth had always been too small and too independent to fit comfortably into someone else's empire. Now they would find out if their independence was worth fighting for. "Send a message to all defense stations," he ordered. "The storm is coming. Everyone to battle stations." Across the solar system, humans prepared for the greatest battle in their history. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, facing an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. But they had something the empire had forgotten in its long years of easy conquest: the desperate courage of people fighting for their freedom. The greatest military force in galactic history was coming to destroy them. Earth was ready to show them that some lines should never be crossed. The Imperial Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system like a metal storm. 5,000 warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. The fleet stretched across millions of kilometers of space, organized into battle groups by species and function. At the center of the formation was Emperor Vextar's personal dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion, a ship so large it had its own gravity. Admiral Jiho watched the arrival from the command center of the Prometheus. The human defense fleet looked tiny in comparison, only 50 ships scattered throughout the solar system. But Jiho knew that numbers were not everything. The aliens were about to learn that lesson the hard way. "They're certainly confident," observed Captain Taman, whose silent thunder was hidden among the asteroids of the outer belt. "Look at that formation. They're not even trying to protect their flanks." "Why would they?" replied Commander Nara from her position at the Quantum Defense Control Center. "They think they're dealing with primitive humans using chemical rockets and metal bullets. They have no idea what we've really built here." Emperor Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the small human solar system through the massive viewing ports. After 800 years of conquest, he had seen many worlds surrender. He expected Earth to follow the same pattern. A few token shots fired for honor's sake, then immediate surrender when the humans realized they faced impossible odds. "Begin the attack," he commanded. "Advance battle groups Alpha through Delta. Keep the formation tight. I want this over quickly." 2,000 Imperial ships began moving toward the quantum boundary. War Chief Gore commanded the first wave from his battle cruiser, the Iron Fang. Unlike the Emperor, Gore remembered what had happened to the probe fleet. He had tried to convince Vextar to approach more carefully, but the Emperor was eager to end this embarrassing rebellion. "All ships," Gore broadcast to his battle group, "remember the probe fleet. These humans have unknown weapons. Stay alert and be ready for anything." The first Imperial ships crossed the invisible boundary around Earth's solar system. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien crews began to relax, thinking that perhaps the earlier incident had been some kind of trick or accident. Then reality began to go wrong. The lead Morgoth destroyer suddenly found itself flying backward, even though its engines were pushing it forward. The ship's crew watched in horror as their instrument readings made no sense. According to their navigation computers, they were somehow moving in 2 different directions at the same time. On a nearby Ashikari cruiser, the crew discovered that their weapons were aging rapidly. Energy beams that should have lasted microseconds were decaying before they left the ship's guns. The crystal aliens tried to recalibrate their systems, but the laws of physics seemed to be changing around them every few minutes. The worst affected were the Nathali ships. The gaseous aliens found that their carefully controlled atmospheric suits were leaking into space that had suddenly become more dense than their own bodies. Several Nathali officers simply dissolved as the quantum field convinced the universe that gas was heavier than vacuum. "What is happening to our ships?" Emperor Vextar demanded from his flagship. He could see the lead battle group spreading out in confusion, their perfect formations breaking apart as individual ships struggled with impossible physics. Dr. Hyun monitored the battle from his command center beneath the ocean. Multiple screens showed him the status of every quantum anchor point throughout the solar system. The network was performing exactly as designed, but the strain of affecting so many ships at once was enormous. "Doctor," called his assistant Jan, "the power levels are approaching critical limits. We're using energy faster than the fusion plants can supply it." "Route emergency power from the civilian grid," Hyun ordered. "Every home, every factory, every city on Earth. We need everything they can give us." Across Earth, lights dimmed as every available source of power was redirected to the quantum network. People sat in darkened houses and watched the battle through telescope feeds, knowing that their electricity was being used to bend reality itself in defense of their world. Captain Taman struck first. His silent thunder emerged from the asteroid field like a ghost, its quantum-enhanced engines allowing it to move in ways that violated every known law of space travel. The ship appeared above a Vorthon battlecruiser and fired a single torpedo. The torpedo didn't explode in any conventional sense. Instead, it created a small bubble of accelerated time around the alien ship. To outside observers, the cruiser seemed to flash out of existence. In reality, the ship aged 10,000 years in the space of a second, its crew dying of old age as their vessel crumbled to cosmic dust. "Impossible," War Chief Gore roared as he watched the Vorthon ship disintegrate. "Ships cannot age like that. Time does not work like that." But time did work like that, within Earth's quantum field. The human defenders had learned to use the universe itself as a weapon. More human ships began to appear throughout the solar system. They emerged from hiding spots among planets and moons, their hulls shimmering with quantum energy. Unlike the massive alien vessels, the human ships were small and fast, designed to use the altered physics of the solar system to their advantage. The human ship Defiance materialized next to a formation of Kylar hive ships. Instead of firing conventional weapons, it created a gravity well that convinced the insect ships they were falling toward a black hole. The aliens panicked and tried to escape, but their own evasive maneuvers sent them crashing into each other as up and down became meaningless concepts. Emperor Vextar watched in growing fury as his magnificent fleet fell apart. Ships were disappearing, aging to dust or simply losing all structural integrity as the quantum field played havoc with their molecular bonds. In 1 hour of battle, he had lost more vessels than in the previous century of conquest. "All ships, full retreat," he finally commanded. "Pull back beyond the boundary." But retreating was not as simple as advancing had been. The ships that tried to cross back into normal space found that the boundary had changed them. Some vessels discovered that their crews had been shifted slightly out of phase with reality and passed through the ship's walls like ghosts. Others found that their metal hulls had been converted into a form of matter that didn't interact properly with normal space. Admiral Jiho coordinated the human defense from his flagship. The Prometheus moved through the chaos of the battle like a dancer, appearing wherever the alien formation was weakest and striking with precision before vanishing again. "The Emperor's dreadnought is trying to circle around behind Mars," reported Lieutenant Sora. "He's attempting to avoid the main quantum field." "Not a chance," Jiho replied. "Commander Nara, can you extend the field to cover his approach vector?" "Already." "On it," Nara responded from her underground command center. Activating secondary grid in 30 seconds. The Eternal Dominion was the largest ship in the Imperial fleet, heavily armored and protected by energy shields that could withstand the explosion of a small star. Emperor Vextar was certain that even if these strange human weapons could destroy smaller ships, his flagship would be able to punch through their defenses. He was wrong. As the dreadnought entered the extended quantum field, its massive size became a liability. The ship was so large that different parts of it experienced different alterations to physics. The front of the ship aged rapidly, while the rear section moved backward through time. The middle sections found themselves in a region where gravity pointed in 17 different directions at once. The Eternal Dominion began to tear itself apart as its own structure tried to exist in multiple versions of reality simultaneously. Alarms blared throughout the ship as bulkheads buckled and entire decks phased in and out of existence. "Emergency evacuation," Vextar commanded. "All crew to the escape pods." But even the escape pods were affected by the quantum field. Some Pods launched successfully, only to find themselves trapped in time loops launching over and over again. Others discovered that they had been converted into pure energy and could not maintain physical form. War Chief Gore managed to get his battlecruiser out of the quantum field, but at a terrible cost. Half his crew had aged 50 years in the space of minutes. The other half had been shifted into a parallel dimension and could only be seen as ghostly images walking through the ship's corridors. As the surviving Imperial ships limped away from the solar system, Gore counted the losses. Of the 5,000 ships that had entered the battle, fewer than 800 remained functional. The rest had been destroyed, aged to dust, or transformed into something that could no longer be called a ship. The greatest military force in galactic history had been shattered by 50 human vessels, and the laws of physics turned upside down. Emperor Vextar floated in his escape pod, watching his mighty dreadnought collapse into a cloud of metal fragments and exotic matter. For the first time in 800 years of rule, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Not fear of death. He had faced that many times in his long life. This was fear of the unknown. Fear of an enemy that fought by rules he could not understand. The humans had not simply defeated his fleet, they had made his fleet irrelevant. As the escape pod drifted toward the nearest Imperial rescue,